Today we're going to make one of these nice shiny copper pennies into one of these nice dull nickel plated pennies using just the solution of vinegar, salt, some alligator clips, nickel plate, and a 9-volt battery. To do this, we'll just attach the positive to the 9-volt battery and the negative. And what's happening is the electric flow is going from the positive charge here into the anode, and some of the nickel here is being dissolved in the solution and becoming nickel acetate. The nickel acetate is being deposited on the cathode here, where the electrical flow is going all the way through, completing the circuit. In this part, we let the solution sit for a couple hours so that it becomes concentrated with nickel ions. That would be advantageous for us so that the plating of the penny goes by a little quicker. What will happen is we will just insert the penny and replace it with the cathode here. Something interesting you might notice is that there are bubbles coming off of the cathode. That is hydrogen gas being emitted from the reaction. Something also interesting you might notice is that the cathode is kind of crooked, whereas the anode looks fine. The cause of that is the electrical current is causing stress on the material. This internal stress can be avoided by using a lower current, which can be achieved by using a higher resistance or a lower voltage. Here we are. I put the penny in the solution. It's kind of hard to see because of all the hydrogen gas. And you might notice I'm wearing gloves. It's not really for my protection, but it's to keep the penny clean. Nickel is a little bit toxic. It's not super bad, but it's still best to try and keep it off of you. The main danger here is hydrogen gas, as it's flammable. Notice that I'm doing it outside. We will come back in about 20 minutes and see how this is going. It's been about an hour. I was only planning on doing 20 minutes, but here we are. Pulling it out, and as you can see, oh shit, not much has changed. I guess my battery's kind of low. But a little bit of nickel on there. We're back, it's the next day. I have a new fresh battery. Has this been running about an hour? Let's check on it. Oh yeah, that looks good. Something interesting you might be noticing is those lines on the penny. That's because the deposition isn't completely even. This may be caused by a variety of factors, but the main one is probably the throwing power, which is controlled by the current. It was noted in Inco's nickel plating guide that lower currents actually produce more even plating, but the solution also has an impact. They noticed that solutions higher in sulfur tended to have higher consistency. Now, just for fun, we're going to try out this brass plate, see if we can get some nickel on there. So we'll just set this up. Starts bubbling like always, nice and beautiful. We'll come back in some time. Welcome back. It's been about an hour. As you can see, there's definitely a color change. Let's pull it out and see what we're working with. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Look at that. Straight nickel. There we go. Here we have a circuit diagram of what's going on, but before we get into that, I need to mention one thing. Anything you want to electroplate needs to be extremely clean. To do this, I cleaned everything with an ultrasonic cleaner using Alkanox cleaning solution. And then, after it dried, I cleaned it with brake cleaner. Something else you could do is clean it with brake cleaner and then dip it in muriatic acid. The idea is just to get all of the oils off. So now into the circuit diagram. What we have is pretty much what we had before. We have the battery, the alligator clips, the vinegar, the nickel anode, and the brass cathode. The current goes from here, goes in, and goes to there, and completes the circuit. Pretty simple system. Next, I wanted to find the current that we were running. So to do this, I asked Bing Chat what the resistance of a battery, alligator clips, the anode, and the cathode were given the parameters that I used. For the battery, they reported that it was about 1 to 2 ohms, so I went with 1.5. For the alligator clips, it was about 0.01 to 0.1, so I went with 0.5. The resistance of the anode was found by dividing the resistivity of nickel by the area of the rectangle, which was just provided by the manufacturer. So I just multiplied the length by width by height, and then we multiplied by the length that the anode and cathode were separated by, giving about 0.18 ohms. For the cathode, it was just pi r squared because the penny is a circle, and we are neglecting the fine details of it because that will have a negligible amount of effect, as the resistance is already pretty small. So we just divide their resistivity by that and multiplied by the distance apart again, and we got about 3.72 times 10 to the minus 7 ohms, which is very, very tiny, so probably no effect at all. So combining all of those, we got 1.60 ohms, and we divided the 9 volts by 1.60 ohms, and that gives us approximately 5.73 amps of current. Since these numbers are coming from Bing Chat, they are not necessarily reliable, so they aren't perfect, and because I didn't have a multimeter, I am unable to experimentally test, but this is a pretty decent approximation. It gives us an idea of what we're working with.